So you're interested in Belgian copper coins. Great stuff, but here's the thing. Before you can talk about Belgium, you gotta understand there wasn't always a Belgium. We're talking way back, over 2,000 years ago. The land was home to Celtic tribes, guys like the Nervi and the Eburones. These weren't exactly guys walking around with pockets full of change like we do. Barter was big. You trade a chicken for some pottery, that kind of deal. But as trade got more complicated, they needed something more. Something standardized. And that's where the first bits of metal money come into the picture. These early coins weren't what you're thinking. They were often cast potin coins. Potin is a mix of metals, mostly copper, tin, and sometimes lead. They were clunky, not perfectly round, and the designs were pretty basic. Think abstract shapes, dots, maybe a stylized horse or a boar. The Ambiani tribe, who were neighbors to the folks in what is now Belgium, made some famous ones. These pieces were more about having a standard weight of metal than having a pretty picture on them. They were a step up from trading goats, that's for sure. It meant you could carry your wealth, and it made long-distance trade a whole lot easier. Imagine you're a trader back then, around 100 BC. You're trying to sell some fine wool you got from your sheep. Carrying around tons of wool to trade for grain is a pain. But with these potin coins, you sell your wool for a bag of metal, then you take that bag and buy whatever you need, wherever you go. It's a game changer. These coins were usually small, maybe 15 to 20 millimeters across, and didn't weigh much. We don't have mintage numbers. They didn't keep records like that. What we do know is that finding one of these today, that's a real piece of history. It's the very beginning of the story of money in this part of the world. So, when we talk about the earliest Belgian copper, we're really talking about these tribal coins. They didn't say Belgium on them, and they weren't made by a king. They were made by groups of people trying to solve a problem, how to make trade work better. They used copper because it was available and durable. It wasn't worth as much as gold or silver, so it was perfect for everyday transactions. Buying bread, paying a toll, that sort of thing. These humble, often overlooked pieces of potin are the true ancestors of every Belgian coin that came after. They set the stage for everything. Then the Romans showed up. Around 57 BC, Julius Caesar marched his legions into Gaul, and everything changed. The local tribes got conquered, and the region, which they called Gallia Belgica, became part of the massive Roman Empire. And when the Romans take over, they bring their stuff with them. Their laws, their roads, and their money. Suddenly, those old Celtic potin coins looked ancient. The Romans had a sophisticated monetary system, and their coins were everywhere. For the common person, the most important coins were the ones made of bronze and copper. These were the coins of the people. The main copper coin you would have seen was the as. You also had bigger bronze coins, like the sestertius and the dupondius. A sestertius was worth 4 asses. These coins were expertly made. They were struck, not cast, so the details were sharp. On one side, you'd always have the portrait of the emperor, Augustus, Nero, Trajan, you name it. This was powerful propaganda. Every time you bought something, you were looking at the face of the guy in charge. The other side usually had images of gods, goddesses, military victories, or public buildings. It was like a tiny billboard for the power and glory of Rome. Think about a guy living in a small village near modern-day Tongeren, which the Romans called Atuatuca Tungrorum. He'd go to the market and use these Roman coins. He might use a few asses to buy a loaf of bread or some fish. These coins were heavy, well-made, and accepted everywhere from Britain to Egypt. An as from the 1st century AD might be about 25 millimeters in diameter and weigh around 10 or 11 grams. They were pure copper, or close to it. The sestertius was a big boy, often over 30 millimeters and weighing 25 grams. You could feel the value in your hand. For centuries, Roman copper and bronze coins were the only game in town. They were minted in huge quantities at places like Rome, Lyon, and Trier. So, when archaeologists dig in Belgium today, they find tons of these. They tell us what the economy was like and which emperors were influential in the area. But as the Roman Empire started to crumble in the 4th and 5th centuries, the quality of the coins went way down. They got smaller, lighter, and the designs got sloppy. It was a sign of the times. The big, powerful empire was falling apart, and its money showed it. After the Romans left, things got chaotic. This period, the Dark Ages and then the Middle Ages, was a free-for-all. The idea of a single unified country was gone. Instead, the land we call Belgium was broken up into a bunch of smaller territories. You had the County of Flanders, the Duchy of Brabant, the Prince-Bishopric of Liège, all these little states run by a duke, a count, or a bishop. And here's the kicker, every single one of them wanted to mint their own coins. It was a sign of power and independence. So, the money situation became a real mess. For the everyday person, copper coins were still the most important. Silver and gold were for rich merchants and nobles. You and I, we'd be using copper. These coins had all sorts of names, depending on where you were. In Brabant, you might have a mite, or a Brabant. In Flanders, you could be using a gros. These coins were usually pretty small and thin. The designs often featured the ruler's coat of arms, a cross, or a lion, which has always been a big symbol in that part of the world. The quality varied a lot. Some were nicely struck, others were crude. Let's say you're a weaver in Bruges in the 14th century. Bruges was a huge center for trade, a real powerhouse. You'd get paid for your cloth, maybe in silver, but then you'd have to change it into smaller copper coins to buy your daily necessities. You'd go to the market for bread, beer, and cheese, and you'd pay with a handful of these little copper mites. The problem was, a coin from Brabant might not be accepted in Flanders, or it might be worth less. You always had to be careful what money you took. Money changers became really important people in every town square. What's interesting is that you start to see the first attempts at standardization. The powerful Dukes of Burgundy, who eventually took control of most of these territories in the 15th century, tried to create a more unified currency. Philip the Good introduced a coin called a double mite, or a liard. This was a copper coin used across his lands, which were called the Burgundian Netherlands. It made trade between cities like Ghent, Brussels, and Antwerp a lot smoother. These coins still weren't high art, but they were a step in the right direction. They were building the foundation of a single economic zone. Fast forward a bit, and the political map changes again. Through marriages and inheritances, it's a whole soap opera, trust me. These lands ended up in the hands of the Spanish Habsburg kings in the 16th century. So now, the area is known as the Spanish Netherlands. The Spanish kings, like Philip II, continued to mint coins for their northern territories. For the common folk, the most familiar coin was the copper liard, also called an ord in Dutch. This was the workhorse coin for small purchases. It kept the wheels of the economy turning for the average person. A typical liard from this era, say from the late 1500s or early 1600s, was a purely copper coin. It was about 20 to 23 millimeters wide and weighed a couple of grams. On the front, you'd usually see the coat of arms of the King of Spain. On the back, you'd often see the Cross of Burgundy, a reminder of the region's past. The legend, or writing, would be in Latin, naming the ruler, like Philippus II's DG Hisp Rex, which means Philip II, by the grace of God, King of Spain, and then mentioning his title as Duke of Brabant, or Count of Flanders. These coins were minted in huge numbers in places like Antwerp, Bruges, and Brussels. Then, after a bunch of wars, control shifted again. In the early 1700s, the territory passed to the Austrian branch of the Habsburg family. Now, it was the Austrian Netherlands. The coins changed, but not that much. The liard was still the go-to copper coin. The main difference was the face on the money, or at least the name. Instead of Spanish kings, you had Austrian rulers, like Empress Maria Theresa and her son, Joseph II. Their portraits started appearing on the copper coins, which was a big deal. It made the connection to the ruler much more personal for the people using them. Imagine being a farmer selling vegetables at a market in Brussels in 1785. Someone pays you with a handful of copper liards. On them, you see the portrait of Emperor Joseph II. It's a constant reminder of who's in charge, even if he's hundreds of miles away in Vienna. A liard from this period under Joseph II was a nice-looking coin, about 25 millimeters and weighing around 5 grams. The mints in Brussels and Bruges produced millions of them. These coins were a stable part of life for decades, but big changes were on the horizon. The French Revolution was about to explode and turn everything upside down once again. After the Austrians, the French under Napoleon took over. Then, after Napoleon's defeat at Waterloo, just a few miles from Brussels, the great powers of Europe decided to create the United Kingdom of the Netherlands, sticking Belgium and Holland together. The Belgians weren't happy about this, and in 1830 they revolted. They won their independence, and the Kingdom of Belgium was born. One of the first things a new country needs to do is make its own money. It's a huge symbol of sovereignty. You're not using a Dutch king's money anymore, you're using your own. So, in 1832, Belgium passed its first currency law. They created the Belgian franc, which was equal in value to the French franc, and they started minting coins. The very first Belgian copper coins were the 1, 2, 5, and 10 centime pieces. These were designed by Joseph Pierre Bremt, a famous engraver at the Brussels Mint. The design was simple but powerful. On one side, you had the Belgian lion, the inside a wreath. The lion is rampant, meaning it's standing on its hind legs, ready to fight. It's a symbol of courage and freedom. Above the lion, it says L'union fait la force, which means unity makes strength, the national motto. On the other side of these first coins was the monogram of the very first king of the Belgians, Leopold I. It was a big stylized L with a crown on top. You also had the date and the value of the coin. The 5 and 10 centime coins were pretty big. The 10 centimes piece, for example, was pure copper, weighed a hefty 20 grams, and was 32 millimeters in diameter. That's bigger than a US half dollar. You definitely knew you had one in your pocket. The 1 and 2 centime coins were smaller, weighing 2 and 4 grams, respectively. These were the coins people used every single day to buy bread, a newspaper, or a beer. These first coins are incredibly historic. They represent the birth of a nation. Imagine being one of the first people to hold a 10 centime piece in 1832. After centuries of being ruled by Spanish, Austrians, French, and Dutch, you finally had a coin that was truly Belgian. It had your national symbol, your national motto, and your king's initial on it. It was a powerful feeling of pride and identity. These coins circulated for decades, and they laid the groundwork for all the Belgian money that would follow. They are highly collectible today, not because they are super rare, but because of what they represent. After those first coins with the monogram, things started to change. People like to see their leader. It makes the money feel more official. So, in 1843, a new design for the 5 and 10 centime copper coins was introduced. This time, it featured the portrait of King Leopold I. This was a big step. Now, the king's face was directly on the money used by every citizen. The portrait showed him in military uniform, looking very regal. The reverse side still had the Belgian lion, but it was a new, more detailed design. This set a precedent that would last for over 150 years. The ruler's portrait would be on the coins. When Leopold I died in 1865, his son, Leopold II, became king. And you know what that means, new coins. The first copper coins with Leopold II's portrait were issued in 1866. These were 1 and 2 centime pieces. An interesting thing about Leopold II's coins is that Belgium is a bilingual country. Some people speak French, some speak Dutch, Flemish. To reflect this, the coins had inscriptions in both languages. For example, the 1 centime coin would say Leopold II Roi des Belges on the French version and Leopold II Koning der Belgen on the Dutch version. They were minted in roughly equal numbers. These 1 and 2 centime coins under Leopold II are probably the most common Belgian coins you can find from the 19th century. They were minted by the hundreds of millions between 1866 and the early 1900s. They were made of copper, and the 2 centimes piece, for example, was 21.5 millimeters and weighed 4 grams. Because they were used so much, they got worn down. Finding one in perfect condition is tough. These were the coins of the Industrial Revolution in Belgium. A factory worker in Liège or a dock worker in Antwerp would get his pay and use these small copper coins for all his minor expenses. A unique feature of this era was the hold coins. In 1901, they introduced new 5, 10, and 25 centime coins made of copper nickel. What was special was that the 5 and 10 centime coins had a hole in the middle. There were a few reasons for this. It made them easy to tell apart from other coins just by touch, which was great for visually impaired people. It also saved a little bit of metal. The design was modern for its time, with the word Belgique or Belgie going through the hole. These hold coins were very popular and were a distinctive feature of Belgian currency for many years to come. Then came the 20th century, and with it, 2 world wars. War is expensive, and it has a huge impact on a country's money. During World War I, Germany occupied most of Belgium. Right away, metals like copper and nickel became critical for the war effort. They were needed for shell casings, wiring, and all sorts of military equipment. So, the Germans confiscated a lot of the existing coins to melt them down. Regular copper coins basically disappeared from circulation. People started hoarding them because the metal itself was worth more than the face value of the coin. To deal with the coin shortage, the occupying German forces issued new coins made of cheaper metals. They introduced 5, 10, and 25 centime coins made of zinc. Zinc is a terrible metal for coins. It's soft, it corrodes easily, and it just feels cheap. But it was available and wasn't needed for weapons. The local Belgian authorities and even individual cities also issued their own necessity money, often made of cardboard, paper, or iron, just to keep commerce going. It was a chaotic time. Using a grimy gray zinc coin was a constant grim reminder that your country was occupied and resources were scarce. After World War I, Belgium tried to get back to normal. They started minting copper-nickel coins again in the 1920s and 1930s. But then, World War II happened, and it was déjà vu all over again. Germany occupied Belgium from 1940 to 1944. Once more, copper and nickel were needed for the war. And once more, the coinage was switched to zinc. The Germans issued new zinc coins, 10 and 25 centimes, with the Belgian lion on them, but these coins were poorly made and quickly deteriorated. They are a sad symbol of another dark period in the nation's history. After the liberation in 1944, the country was a mess. The economy was shattered, and there was a desperate need for new currency. The immediate post-war coins were still made of zinc for a while, because copper was still in short supply. It wasn't until the late 1940s and early 1950s that Belgium was able to return to making proper coins. They started minting bronze coins. Bronze is mostly copper, with a little tin and zinc. These coins, showing the portrait of the king, symbolized a return to stability and prosperity. The switch from zinc back to copper was a sign that the hard times were finally over. The post-war era, from the 1950s to the 1990s, was a long period of stability for Belgian currency. The economy was rebuilding and then booming. This was reflected in the coins. The main copper-based coin used for small transactions was the 50 centime piece. A classic example is the one issued from 1952. It was made of bronze, about 19 millimeters in diameter, and featured a portrait of King Baudouin, who reigned for over 40 years. On the other side was a simple design with the value and a crown. Millions of these were made, and they were a part of every Belgian's pocket or purse for a generation. One of the most iconic Belgian coins from this period is the 25 centime piece. From 1964 until it was discontinued, this coin had a very cool, modern design. It featured the portrait of a miner, complete with a helmet and lamp. This was a tribute to Belgium's coal mining industry, which was a huge part of the country's economy and identity for a long time, especially in the southern region of Wallonia. The coin was designed by Alphonse Darville. It was small, made of bronze, and it's a piece that many Belgians remember fondly. It connected the money directly to the working people who built the country. As the decades went on, inflation started to make the smallest coins less useful. The 25 centime coin was eventually taken out of circulation. The 50 centime piece became the smallest coin. By the 1980s and 1990s, the main copper coin was the 1 franc piece. It wasn't pure copper, of course. For most of its life, it was made of copper nickel, and later it was made of iron plated with nickel, which was cheaper. The design changed with the monarch. After King Baudouin, his brother Albert II came to the throne in 1993, so new coins with Albert II's portrait were issued. The final years of the Belgian franc saw a streamlined set of coins. You had the 50 centime, 1 franc, 5 francs, 20 francs, and 50 francs coins. The 1 franc coin was the true base unit of the currency. A 1 franc coin from the late 1990s was about 18 millimeters wide and featured a simple, modern portrait of King Albert II. The reverse side just had the value and a small map of Europe. This was a hint of what was to come. Belgium, as a founding member of what would become the European Union, was getting ready to say goodbye to its beloved franc. The era of national currency was drawing to a close. On January 1st, 2002, everything changed. Belgium, along with 11 other European countries, officially adopted the euro. The Belgian franc, after 170 years of history, was gone. This was a huge moment. For coin collectors and for everyday people, it meant a whole new set of money. The euro coins have a common side, used by all countries, which shows a map of Europe and the value. But each country gets to design its own national side. This was Belgium's chance to create a new national symbol for the 21st century. For its national design, Belgium chose to continue its long tradition. They put the portrait of the reigning monarch, King Albert II, on all their euro coins, from the 1 cent to the 2 euro piece. The copper coins of the euro system are the 1, 2, and 5 cent pieces. They look like copper, but they're actually copper-plated steel. This is much cheaper to produce than solid copper or bronze. The 1 cent coin is the smallest at 16.25 millimeters, and the 5 cent is the largest of the three at 21.25 millimeters. The design was simple: a profile of the king, his monogram, and the 12 stars of the European Union. An interesting thing happened in 2014. King Albert II abdicated, and his son, Philippe, became the new king. Just like in the old days, this meant the coins had to be updated. So, from 2014 onwards, new Belgian euro coins were minted with the portrait of King Philippe. This continues the tradition of the monarch's face on the money. So, if you're in Belgium today, you might find euro cents with either Albert II's or Philippe's face on them. Both are legal tender. It's a little piece of history in your pocket, showing the transition from one reign to the next. But here's the final chapter in the story of Belgian copper. These small coins, the 1 and 2 cent pieces, are becoming a hassle. They cost more to make than they are worth, and people don't like carrying them. So, in 2019, Belgium passed a law requiring all prices in stores to be rounded to the nearest 5 cents for cash payments. This means the 1 and 2 cent coins are no longer really needed. While they are still legal tender, they are being phased out of circulation. The story that began with crude potent coins thousands of years ago is ending with these tiny, copper-plated steel discs slowly disappearing from daily life. It's the end of an